I think Israel has every right to defend itself, and they should eradicate Hamas. This is not like we woke up and found out that they were a terrorist organization yesterday or on Sunday. We've known this for years. They've been labeled as such. People have been monitoring their money flows for years. We know where they were funded. But the thing to keep in mind is that those 30,000 Hamas terrorists have also been keeping 2.2 Palestinians hostage for the last 20 years. And of the 2.2 million Palestinians in Gaza, half are kids. And so David's right. The thing to keep in mind is, as barbaric as what happened to the Israelis were, Israel, in its actions, could cause tremendous civilian casualties, which will just further inflame the ability to find a long-term peace in the Middle East. That's really tragic. And that's probably part of Hamas's kind of sadistic calculus, which is they probably expected this kind of a reaction, and they probably don't care at the end of the day. So it's important to separate Palestinians from Hamas, but I understand and I know where Israel's coming from because we faced the same reaction after 9/11. The question that I have is, Israel is the most sophisticated military and intelligence organization in the world. And the reason is because when everybody talks about priorities, Israel only really has one priority, which is to safeguard the Israeli people.
Yeah, survive.
And they've been essentially in a conflict zone with this sword of Damocles since the founding of Israel. So there are three organizations that really have to figure out what happened here, right? There's Mossad, which is the foreign intelligence service of Israel. There's Shin Bet, which is the domestic security apparatus. And then there's Amman, which is the military intelligence group. And it's like, how did this happen? Because this should have been priority 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And it has always been for them. Other countries, the safeguarding of their people is not necessarily always number one, right? And then things happen and then you reprioritize. In many ways, that's what happened in 9/11, I guess, at some level in America.
Yeah. I mean, we had all the signal before that. And when we did the 9/11 commission and we found out they were going to flight school here, and it was pretty clear that it was an intelligence failure for America. Yeah.
Those are the two big thoughts that I have, which is there's just going to be so many civilian casualties. What will that do to actually, I think that has a huge negative impact on the long-term chances of peace, because then radicals will use that information to further or to attempt to radicalize the next generation of Palestinians or other Arabs or whatever. And so I worry that the progress that was made in the Abraham Accords, all the normalization, goes off the rails. And that's tragic because most of these people, the overwhelming majority of all people everywhere, they just want peace. They just want to live a decent life, take care of their family, raise their kids. So that's really tragic. But then the other part of my mind is like, how could this have fallen through the cracks? And why were the most sophisticated intelligence organizations caught flat-footed here?
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of information that'll come out over time and lessons.
And by the way, the reason why that second piece is important is not to point the finger at anybody, but it's to de-escalate because of what Zach said earlier, which is that when people who can articulately gird for war are given the bully pulpit, and you see American politicians now braying and girding for war, I don't think they fully recognize the consequences of that. They're not doing a full accounting of what America has lived through in the last quarter century. And now to induce other countries to try to do the same, I think is so dangerous. And so if we can understand where these cracks are, at least we can de-escalate those specific individuals' attempts to escalate. And if we don't do that, we're going to find ourselves in a really complicated war. And I don't think anybody wants that. Nobody wins.